Hey guys, so today we're going to reproduce yesterday's shave with much of the same gear. The same blade, the Perma-Sharp stainless, Falls Lumberjack from Henri and Victoria, the pearl shaving Flexi adjustable razor, and we're going to change the brush up just for fun. And this is the finest badger brush from Golden Nib, and it is their finest super, which is slightly different than their finest. I do plan on getting one of their finest knots someday, but this is the finest super, and just kind of a cool handle, custom made by somebody. I don't know exactly who. All right, the Perma-Sharp has had 11 shaves on it so far as I fumbled the envelope. So we're looking at putting 12 on it. It's been a terrific blade. The only thing it has been is maybe just a little too sharp, a little unpredictable. I mean, just a tiny bit. And if I ever have any slips, then I do end up with a little tenderness. But it's not even razor burn. You know, but then what I always end up with is a close cut and a pretty high degree of comfort. And that's really pretty sweet. So let's keep on rolling. Yesterday, I had a bad lather from this one. And so I went into overtime and did a palm lather as an experiment. And I added water much slowly. I worked the lather in its early stages before adding a lot of water like I do with most of the other bases that are out there. This base is a little older than like Milk Steak from Declaration Grooming or Excelsior from Barrister and Mann. The Henri and Victoria folks did make a tallow soap that's triple milled, and it looks different, it has the circle, on its design, and that one is a superior lather. I love that one, very enjoyable. I'm tempted to actually get the Falls Lumberjack in that scent, but this shave may very well tell me whether I do or not, depending on how I feel about this one. Because here's the thing, I use this, put too much water into it, and this base, potassium stearate, potassium cocoate, that kind of thing, it's not really a tallow soap per se, and it also doesn't seem to maybe be a vegan soap. Usually they'll tell you if it's a vegan soap. And the ingredients just didn't really add up to something that worked well with water. It seems to work better with less water. And so I'm going to really back off on how I add the water here and run it a lot more pasty than I usually do. We're going to see what happens, because the palm lather I did after yesterday's shave, the slickness was luxurious. It was neat. It was neat because it was so different from the slickness of the soap that I used in the shave, using kind of everybody else's paradigm. But with this one, if we kind of rerun the paradigm and find a new one for this base, I might end up with a soap that I really enjoy and want to keep, that sort of thing, instead of one that I want to find another base in. We do have a little of that salt that's kind of coming up to the top of it. No big deal. All right, let's see, I did show you the gear, so we can go ahead and move on there. Let me get the brush back in the water so we can kind of start out from the normal place when that comes time. So the Perma-Sharp Super Stainless, and yeah, I have pulled blades out of tucks that said Super Stainless, and they look exactly like this. I think they're the same blade, whether it says Super or doesn't. I think it always it says Perma-Sharp Stainless. Let's put it in the Flexi. A little trick that I've told you guys about, there's a little wiggle room before you tighten everything down. I've learned that if you go ahead and do the wiggle while you're tightening it, then it auto centers. If you just kind of put everything together and don't clamp it down like I was doing and just tighten it up, it can get off a little bit, enough to where you can tell. And so I've had very good luck with doing what I just did, and I'm fine. I think if I have to do that for the rest of the time with a razor. It's unfortunate because it's we're talking a brass core with plating, much like the vintage Gillette razors. And we're looking at a good adjustable razor for a relatively low cost with lifetime materials. And it costs much less than the Rex Ambassador. For me, it shaves much better. So for me, it's a better choice than that expensive Ambassador. And I wonder if I like the shave better than maybe the Fat Boy or something. That'd be an interesting trial sometime. But I think it's a great entry into the market. It's what I would rather have happen is for them to be able to maybe redesign the head or something with a little bit more precision, so that when you just kind of assemble everything without thinking about it, without doing some kind of exceptional aligning thing that I just did, and just lock it down, that it's proper, that it's right and exact at that time, because I think that's what this razor deserves. But we'll see. They do keep making changes to the different batches that they release. This is a 5th generation, and I'm enjoying it as long as I am kind of careful to kind of wiggle it into center. All right, let us. I think we're ready to get my face wet. This brush is one that has a good bit of backbone, and so I need to make sure that I give it lots of time, soak time, and maybe 20 minutes we've had. And so that should be plenty for the tips to be nice and soft and the backbone to be fairly relaxed. Okay, so let's do our 20-second load. We'll start at 06. So we'll go to 26. And this soap is one where you can't really tell how much soap is loaded. It kind of hides in your brush. It doesn't make a frothy thing right up front. Did I say 26? I think I did say 20 seconds. Let's do 5 more seconds. So from 31 to 36. Can't help it, right? And so as you can see, it doesn't look like a ton of soap on there, but if my experiences yesterday bear true, then we'll end up with plenty of lather. So I'm just going to work it for a while with what you see here. This may be and see, instantly with a few turns, we get this bubbly stuff right there. And don't be afraid of that, because that is just kind of what happens. I'm going to pause you and reline my camera. That's just what this lather does at first. My second lather yesterday, that was the palm lather, it did start out bubbly, but it just takes work to combine the bubbles and the water together. And it never really gets smoothly elastic like a marshmallow cream like Stirling does for me and most of the other really good soaps out there. This is just a different formula, a different soap base, and so it needs to be treated very differently. And it's okay if it's really firm, kind of like that. Because the soap base just doesn't really seem to play well with a lot of water. Doesn't get creamy, and the more water you add to it, that sort of thing. But now that it looks like I've started to get something good, let's go ahead and add some. I mean, it's not like I'm going to add no water. But my notes, kind of thing I'm going to put in there is run it a lot drier than your usual, not just a little drier. And so this is why we're repeating it today. Because of that problem we had yesterday, and the palm lather felt good in terms of the slickness, but what I'm interested to see is maybe it's slick, but is it too dry? Does it feel too dry on my face? When I, keep it that dry, does it kind of have a scrapey feel? Because, yeah, I mean, look at the jaggediness there. Look at the way the lather is up on the lip there. It's not moving at all. It's pretty rigid. If it doesn't need very much water, then you know what it might be good for is face lathering, because then you don't have to worry about trying to get it really elastic like I do with Stirling. And by the time with a great soap like Stirling, if I get it to this wonderful elastic place where it's creamy and luxurious and very hydrated, so that it's so slick, then it starts to fly off the brush and drip down on my shirt, and it's not enjoyable for me to face lather. But if this guy needs to be thick, it needs to be dense and dry like this to function properly, then maybe that makes it a good face lathering soap. Because then it's not going to drip off, right? Nice woody and slightly ambery scent coming up to me. I knew that I would enjoy using this again because of the scent. I definitely enjoy it. And we've still got a pretty firm lather here. Why don't we do a little hand touch here? Oh yeah, see, it's starting to, it's slick right now, but it's starting to kind of change. I want to keep it luxuriously slick, so maybe we'll stop adding water now. Let's see how much we ended up adding. Maybe 11 milliliters, which is just a measurement you pretty much never hear me say with other soaps. So this is uncommon, but that's okay. We're flexible. I never come into a shave only wanting to add a certain amount of water. I do intentionally pick up a certain amount of soap that I think is going to be the right amount, but then whatever the water is, it is. I just measure it, that's all, at the end. Okay, get my face wet. And before we start shaving, I wanted to remark, I think to allow the most airflow between the safety bar plate and the adjustable base plate that's slightly above it, I think after each shave, I'm going to move the adjuster dial to the 6, so there's as much gap as I can get, and then give that a good rinse, and then leave that at a 6, so that maybe we have some airflow there. Instead of keeping it so small, like at a 3 or a 2, then air just can't get in there. All right, so I think I'm going to do that. We're going to shave today with it on a 4. I shaved yesterday with it on a 1.5. I really enjoyed the shave. It could give me a little bit of razor burn, so it's not utterly safe like maybe a Feather ASD2 or something like that. However, it didn't take much work to control it at all. It was enjoyable. It was nice. I love the feel of this blade because it's firm. It's being held down really well. And so I love the way they designed this base plate to come up fairly close to the edge of the blade, close enough to give it a good curve, and then to really lock it down and keep there from being vibration as it moves across my skin. And so I'm today flipping to the other side. I have shaved with it at a 3 and had a comfortable shave. Let's try a 4, see what happens. Let's see how my tolerance level changes as we get up high. The Rex Ambassador, I would never dream of shaving it at a 4. It was too aggressive, too kind of chattery and tenuous. Uncertain are the kind of words I would use there. And but with the Gibbs that both the Ambassador and this Flexi are patterned after, the Gibbs offers me the whole spectrum of shaves to enjoy. Smoothness abounds with that razor. And so in that sense, I think this razor is more likely to to echo the feel of the Gibbs more accurately than the Ambassador. All right, I think we're good. Let's start working. We've got that on a 4. I wanted to make sure of that before we started here. So even if this kind of turns pasty, we're going to use it and just see what happens. And before stuff starts flying off, let me rake some of it off. Still has a pretty firm backbone. I'd say maybe a 7 out of 10. However, once I get a lot of lather in it, the nice soft tips usually seem to be going okay. Need to put some more uses on it though. See, we'll circulate some of the lather in the brush by doing that, raking it off the side, put it on my face, and then push it into the knot. You can definitely feel a difference. It's definitely a workout because of the kind of amount of effort you have to use to press the brush in, because it is resisting you. I did mount this knot kind of non-standard, about as high as I could get away with. See, we got a lot. See, we're generating more lather. We can look. We got so much lather from that 25 seconds. I probably didn't need to do that extra 5. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's work it in just a little bit more, and then we'll use that. Get that side lather off. And when your lather's not as wet, to me, it's definitely important to make sure you give it time to work into your face. Kind of absorb into your skin to protect. All right, yeah, nice scent. Right now, as I'm working it in, it's still kind of a 4 out of 10. It's not a super strong scent, but very enjoyable. You know, woody, of course. A hint of maybe amber. But yesterday, when I put my first pass on, I had worked it and added water, and it looked pretty good in the bowl. It did look a little light, a little like there wasn't as much substance to it, but it was behaving pretty well in terms of elasticity, that sort of thing. But you can tell it just wasn't very dense. And so sure enough, when I got to this point and I was about to shave, it had pretty much gone away from my cheeks. And that's not necessarily too bad, because some of the good soaps will go away. They can potentially go away, but they'll leave behind this wonderful slick coating on your skin that's perfectly shaveable and just exactly what it needs to be. Well, this did not leave that behind. It left behind dryness. And so then I knew that I had taken it too far, and this lather is just not one that it bonds well with the water. Now, maybe their vegan base is different, and I know their triple mill tallow base is definitely different. This does have a drier feel than my usual, but it does kind of have a creamy feel, and that's kind of what we're going for as well. So let's give this guy a shot. Like I said, relying here on the soap to be the kind of more the lubricant instead of the water plus the soap, in a manner of speaking. All right, so setting 4. It's a heavy razor, by the way, in case you haven't heard yet. Well, that's definitely not too rough to enjoy. Maybe I'll try not to buff too much. Moving through the hair very easily, no hint of any tugging. As you can hear, not a whole lot of chatter, not a whole lot of blade movement, causing the small vibrations, which translates into sound. So if that edge moves across my skin without vibrating, I think that's probably what helps it to be a smooth feel. It does take a little bit more effort to rinse away this kind of lather. This is thicker for sure. My skin feels dry after the fact, because obviously the lather just doesn't have nearly as much water, and so if I spread the lather around, then I can, you know, hit things again like that. It almost feels like I'm using canned foam. All right, let's rinse. The rinse can be a diagnostic tool. It can tell you a lot of things about your lather. Like for instance, just now I thought, you know what, I'm about to do this rinse, and I may have this layer of kind of soap concentrate that's on my skin. And when I splash it with water, it could bring it alive and feel very creamy, but no, it didn't. I'm not really dealing with that concentrate on my skin here. But this lather's working better than yesterday's, the one I worked with. So this is just not a great soap base in my opinion, at least according to, you know, matching my my personal style. Maybe it lathers up really quickly for face latherers, you know, and then they don't have to spend a lot of time adding water to it. But I don't think it's as kind to my skin. I don't think it offers very much slickness and protection. I think my skin is being harshed up just a little bit. I probably shouldn't have used a 4, you know, for a fair comparison, but I think I kind of know that I'm not really going to keep this soap base around. Not necessarily because it has to be treated in a special way, but because the lather that I have to use to get it to be stable is just very dry. I could play around with it more and see if maybe the speed at which you add water makes a big difference or something like that. I mean, there's just no secondary slickness here. You really have to re-add lather to get something that's shaveable again. I don't know if they are keeping this old soap base around in the active roster. I know that they have the new triple mill tallow, but I don't know if they are just going to sell out of this and focus on the triple mill tallow, and in that case I think that's a good idea, or if they're keeping this in conjunction for those people who may like the old formula. But yeah, I don't quite enjoy it very much. Okay, and I did get some water on my face. I am experiencing kind of some of that itchy dryness in my skin, where I just feel like I've had too much soap, too much of a concentrate of soap on my skin, and then shaved over it with a blade, you know. But in terms of a a creamy feel. At least we do have that. We do have that. Not a great kind of slickness, but kind of, I mean, it kind of gets the job done. All right, cross grain again. So the 4 doesn't seem to be so aggressive that I instantly want to change. You know, I'm not realizing them right away that it's too much. But it is definitely efficient. I'm not going to worry about making sure I get perfection here. The kind of irritation that's kind of growing as we go on with the shave is probably due to both the razor having more exposure as well as the lather just not being as nourishing to my face, because we're just needing so much soap to be, you know, on my face. And so let's just do one little bit more right there. And in a way, this does feel really neat in your hands until you've just experienced a better soap. And so I could definitely see a good many people who could be using this soap for quite a while and really like it, because, you know, it does have kind of a slick feel. Treading very lightly here, since I'm dealing with the 4 setting. Did not do against the grain, just kind of cross grain in the other direction. And there we go. And if you spread a little bit of that lather around, then you've got a little bit of slickness there, and so you're not rubbing your face raw. But if you don't, then you are. And what's telling me I don't have it too dry is the rinses, because it's the water splashing up on my face. It's waking it up just a little bit, and then it's rinsing away and it's gone. If there was too much concentration going on, then it would be, it would wake up and it would kind of be luxurious and creamy for a little longer before it got rinsed away, and it would take a little bit longer to rinse away. And so I don't feel like I've got it too dry or too thick. Okay, well that 25, is that what I decided to do? 20 seconds plus 5 seconds. Yeah, so 25 seconds of loading, and as you can see, I did 3 passes of lather, and I still have 2 or 3 passes here left. And there is the you'll see it drop in one clod there into the bowl, and that kind of explains the viscosity and the tightness of the structure, because it's just staying in its own shape there. Gravity doesn't really affect it, partially because it doesn't have a ton of water in there, so it's able to be light, keep that structure. So it'll do in a pinch. And with you guys with tough skin, you won't notice. You probably won't notice anything. Your skin won't have kind of that irritated feel at the end of your shave. And so you'd be fine with this kind of thing. But my skin seems to be right on the edge there, where it's just a little bit more sensitive than that. I can handle a lot of things, but some splashes have too much concentration for me and give me a little bit of redness. So I seem to be in a pretty good place to give some feedback, because my skin's not so sensitive that everything bothers me, but it's not so tough that nothing bothers me. It's kind of in the middle there somewhere. Well, the scent on this was terrific, and maybe on the used marketplace, I might definitely be on the lookout for the false lumberjack in the new tallow base triple mill tallow base, and I'm eagerly looking forward to Agar from Stirling because I want its balm properties to help out my skin. And I discovered yesterday that the Agar scent, as I was guessing, it was a very good follow-up, very good match to the woodiness that's in this soap. And so I am sure that my skin is going to recover nicely and without too much drama. But it might take it a little bit. All right. Well, you know what I bet I got? I bet I got a close shave. Yeah, I really did. So that's the advantage of that number 4. So maybe I should try the 4 again someday when I feel like I've got a really protective lather, one that's more akin to what you normally see me with, but with kind of a dry lather like this one. It's not a good pairing for my skin. And the Perma-Sharp blade, which is kind of edgy, seems to be maybe similar to a feather, at least to me, in the razors I've tried it in. A little on the touchy side, but with good technique and a mildness. If the razor has a mildness to it, then it tames it pretty well and can give you comfort and closeness at the same time, which is a very cool thing. And it's smoothing out just a bit as we go. Today was the 12th shave, and I think this is a great blade for, likely a great blade for a lot of people, especially people who like feathers. And so we'll see. Keep on going with that. Oh, the Agar, terrific match here. So that was a good experiment. I'm glad I cleared that up. I thought that what I had in my palm lather might be something good to shave with. It did feel very slick. It did, but it didn't really work well with when in actual skin contact and razor movement and secondary slickness and protection, that sort of thing. But it'll do, if you happen to like the scent, or if you have a tough face, or if you're not as picky as I am, I guess. All right, well, there we go. Lessons learned, and we'll pick something else for tomorrow. I've got West Egg, I've got Fenchurch. Those are some of the ones I'm packing around with me lately that might be coming soon. All right, this is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I sure hope that this shave has brought you something to help you out. You guys, take care. Have a good night.